My parents told me to drop out of college and work 2 jobs so I could pay the mortgage on the house they bought for my golden child brother. When I refused, they announced at Thanksgiving that they're suing me for back rent for my childhood bedroom. I'm 24. My brother is 28. Our parents bought him a 3-bedroom house last year as an investment in his future since he just got engaged. The down payment alone was $80,000. They told the whole family it was because he showed responsibility by working at our dad's company for 5 years. What they didn't mention was that I put myself through state college while working nights at a grocery store because they said they couldn't afford to help me with tuition. 2 months ago my mom called and said they needed to talk about something important. I drove over thinking someone died or got sick. Instead they sat me down and told me that the mortgage payments on my brother's house were stretching them thin and they needed me to step up as family. I said, "What do you mean step up?" My dad goes, "You're done with college now. You have that office job. Your brother has a wedding to pay for and a house to maintain. We think it's fair if you contribute $1,200 a month to help with his mortgage until he gets on his feet." I literally laughed because I thought he was joking. He wasn't joking. My mom jumped in with, "We gave you a roof over your head for 18 years. We fed you, clothed you, paid for everything. It's time you paid us back for all those years of expenses. Consider this your back rent." I said, "You want me to pay rent for being your child?" She goes, "Don't be dramatic. We're asking you to help your brother. Family helps family." I asked why my brother couldn't pay his own mortgage if he has a full-time job at dad's company making $75,000 a year. My dad got red in the face and said my brother had other priorities and I was being selfish. I made $42,000 at my job and paid $950 for my own rent in a studio apartment. I told them no. I said I couldn't afford it, and even if I could, I wouldn't pay someone else's mortgage on a house they chose to buy him. My mom started crying and said I was ungrateful and breaking her heart. My dad told me to leave and think about what kind of person I wanted to be. I didn't hear from them for 3 weeks. My brother called once to tell me I was ruining his life and his fiancée was upset that my drama was stressing out our parents. I blocked his number. Then Thanksgiving happened. I almost didn't go, but my aunt convinced me to come because it's family and they probably just wanted to move past it. I showed up with a store-bought pie. My brother and his fiancée were already there. So were my grandparents, 2 aunts, an uncle, and 4 cousins. Big family gathering. Dinner was tense but okay until dessert. My dad stood up with a folder in his hand and said he wanted to make an announcement. I figured he was going to talk about my brother's wedding or some retirement plan. Instead he pulled out papers and slid them across the table to me. He said, "Since you've refused to contribute voluntarily, we've calculated 18 years of room and board at fair market value. You owe us $47,000 in back rent. Our lawyer says we have a solid case. You're being served." The entire table went silent. I picked up the papers and saw it was an actual lawsuit. They were suing me for $47,000 for unjust enrichment and unpaid rent for living in their house as a child. The document listed things like $400 per month for bedroom usage and $300 per month for food going back to when I was born. My grandmother said, "What the hell is wrong with you?" My mom snapped at her to stay out of it. My dad said this was between them and me and I had 30 days to respond. My brother's fiancée was smirking. My brother wouldn't look at me. I stood up and said, "You're really doing this? You're actually suing your own daughter for being your child." My dad goes, "You made your choice. Now face the consequences." I looked at everyone else at the table. My uncle was staring at his plate. My cousins looked uncomfortable. My aunt who convinced me to come had tears in her eyes. I asked if anyone else thought this was insane and my other aunt said quietly that maybe I should just help out my brother since they did raise me. I lost it. I told them they bought my brother a house he couldn't afford and now wanted me to sacrifice my entire financial future to cover their mistake. I said I worked 2 jobs to put myself through college while they handed him everything and now they wanted to bill me for the privilege of existing in their house as a minor. I called them failures as parents and said I was done. My mom shouted that I was a selfish bitch. My brother called me a spoiled cunt. His fiancée told me I was jealous because he made something of himself while I was barely surviving. I threw the papers back at my dad and walked out. Half my family followed me outside trying to calm me down, but I just got in my car and left. Here's where it gets worse. My dad posted on Facebook that I abandoned the family on Thanksgiving after refusing to pay my debts and painted himself as the victim. Relatives I haven't spoken to in years started messaging me calling me entitled and ungrateful. My brother shared the post saying I always expected handouts and never appreciated anything our parents did. I posted the lawsuit documents with a caption that said I'm being sued for $47,000 for existing as their child and tagged my entire family. The comments were brutal. People were horrified. My dad's friends from church called him out. My mom's book club apparently had a whole discussion about it. My grandmother left a comment saying she didn't raise her son to extort his own daughter and she was ashamed. My parents deleted their social media accounts. My brother called me from a different number screaming that I ruined everything and 2 of his fiancée's bridesmaids dropped out because they thought the family was toxic. My uncle told me privately that my dad's been getting ripped apart at work and even his boss asked him what the hell he was thinking. I got a letter from their lawyer last week saying they're withdrawing the lawsuit. No apology. Just a one-sentence letter saying they're dropping it. My mom left me a voicemail saying I humiliated them and destroyed our family over a simple misunderstanding and I'll regret this when they're gone. I haven't responded to anyone. My lease is up in 2 months and I'm planning to move 3 hours away for a better job. I'm not telling them where. But now I keep getting messages from relatives saying I went too far by posting the lawsuit publicly. That I should have handled it privately. That parents make mistakes and I should forgive them because family is family. My brother's fiancé sent me a long message about how I'm the reason their wedding is falling apart and I'm a horrible person for airing family business online. I'm starting to wonder if I really did take it too far. Maybe I should have just talked to a lawyer quietly instead of blasting them on social media. Maybe I made everything worse by embarrassing them publicly. They're still my parents and now half the family won't speak to them because of what I posted. Was I wrong? I got served with a lawsuit dismissal 3 days after my last post, but that's not even close to the end of this nightmare. My brother showed up at my apartment last Tuesday. I don't know how he got past the building security, but I opened my door to get my mail and he was just standing there in the hallway. He looked like absolute shit. Unshaved, wrinkled clothes, dark circles under his eyes. For a second I almost felt bad for him. Then he started talking. He said his fiancée called off the wedding. Not postponed it. Ended it completely. She told him she couldn't marry into a family that would sue their own daughter for existing and she didn't want her future kids around people like our parents. She gave him back the ring 2 days ago and moved out of the house they bought together. The house our parents bought him that started this whole mess. I didn't say anything. Just stood there holding my mail while he told me his life was falling apart. He said our parents were barely speaking to each other because mom blames dad for pushing the lawsuit idea and dad blames mom for not standing firm when I refused to pay. He said our grandmother hasn't returned their calls in weeks and our aunt uninvited them from Christmas. He said people at dad's company treat him differently now and he thinks he's going to get demoted or fired because the owner's wife saw my Facebook post and apparently she has strong opinions about parents who exploit their children. Then he asked if I was happy. If this was what I wanted. I told him I wanted to pay my own bills and live my own life without funding his mortgage. I said I wanted parents who didn't treat me like a bank account with legs. I said I wanted a brother who didn't call me a cunt at Thanksgiving dinner because I wouldn't sacrifice my future for his comfort. He said I was being dramatic. That it wasn't that serious. That I could have just helped out for a year or two until he got settled and none of this would have happened. He actually said you ruined everything over $1,200 a month. I asked him if he understood that $1,200 a month was half my rent plus groceries. If he got that I made $33,000 less than him per year and our parents never bought me a house or gave me a job or helped with my college. He said that wasn't his fault and I shouldn't punish him for their choices. I told him to get the fuck out of my hallway. He didn't leave. He said his mortgage payment is due in 8 days and he can't afford it because his fiancée was splitting costs and now she's gone. He said he's going to lose the house if he can't make the payment. He asked if I could loan him the money just this once. I laughed in his face. I couldn't help it. He showed up at my door after calling me a cunt and watching our parents sue me, and his first move was to ask me for money. I told him to sell the house or ask mom and dad for help since they loved him so much. He said the market's bad right now and he'd lose money on a sale and our parents already refinanced their own house to afford his down payment so they're tapped out. I said that sounds like a him problem and shut the door. He banged on it for like 5 minutes yelling about family loyalty before my neighbor threatened to call the cops and he finally left. I thought that was it, but yesterday my mom called from a number I didn't recognize. I picked up thinking it might be about the job I interviewed for last week. Nope. It was her crying and asking me to reconsider helping my brother just until he sells the house. She said I was the only one who could prevent him from losing everything and didn't I care about my own brother's future. I asked where this energy was when I was working night shifts at a grocery store to afford textbooks. She said that was different because I was investing in myself, but my brother's house was a family investment we should all protect. I asked how it was a family investment when only he got to live in it and only I was expected to pay for it. She didn't have an answer for that. Just cried harder and said I'd changed and she didn't recognize me anymore. I told her she was right. I did change. I stopped letting them treat me like shit and pretend it was love. Then I hung up. Here's the thing that's messing with my head though. My uncle called me last night and told me our dad had a health scare on Monday. Something with his blood pressure spiking really high and mom thought he was having a heart attack. He's fine, but the doctor said the stress isn't good for him and he needs to relax and let things go. My uncle said maybe I should consider reaching out because holding grudges can kill people, and did I want that on my conscience? I don't know what I'm supposed to do with that information. Am I supposed to apologize for defending myself because the stress of facing consequences for his actions made my dad's blood pressure go up? Am I supposed to pretend the lawsuit never happened and go back to being their ATM daughter because he might get sick? My brother sent me a text this morning saying the bank started foreclosure proceedings on his house. Just one line. Thanks a lot. Like this is my fault. Like I'm the one who bought a house he couldn't afford and expected his younger sister to pay for it. I'm moving in 3 weeks. I signed the lease for the new place yesterday and I'm not telling anyone in my family where I'm going except my grandmother. I'm changing my number after the move. I'm done with all of it. But I keep thinking about what my uncle said about grudges and stress and my dad's health. I keep wondering if I'm being cruel by cutting them off completely. They're still my family even if they're terrible at being family. My brother's going to lose his house and maybe that's fair consequences for his choices, but part of me feels sick about it anyway. I don't know anymore. Did I really do the right thing here, or did I just blow up my entire family because I was mad? I moved last week and didn't tell anyone except my grandmother where I was going. That lasted exactly 4 days before my brother figured it out. He showed up at my new apartment on Saturday morning. I have no idea how he found me, but I'm guessing he followed my grandmother because she's the only person who knew my address. I was carrying boxes up from my car when I saw him sitting on the steps outside my building. He wasn't crying or yelling this time. He just looked empty. He told me the bank took his house 3 days ago. Everything happened fast once the foreclosure started. He had 30 days to catch up on payments and he couldn't do it. Our parents tried to get a loan to help him, but their credit is apparently destroyed from refinancing their house for his down payment. Nobody else in the family would loan him the money after everything that happened at Thanksgiving. He's been sleeping on a friend's couch since Tuesday. I asked him why he was telling me this. He said because I won. Because I got what I wanted. His life is completely fucked and I'm starting fresh in a new city with a better job and none of the mess I left behind. He said I should feel good about that. I told him I didn't want his life to fall apart. I just wanted him to leave me alone and pay his own bills. He laughed and said, "Yeah, well, I got my wish." Then he asked if I had any idea what our parents were going through. If I knew Mom hasn't left the house in 2 weeks because she's too ashamed to face people at church. If I knew Dad's boss demoted him to a different department because clients were uncomfortable working with him after my Facebook post went viral in their professional circle. I said that wasn't my fault. They sued me. They tried to charge me rent for being their child. I defended myself. He said I could have handled it privately instead of publicly destroying them, and did I feel powerful now that everyone thinks they're monsters? Here's what I didn't say to him. Yes. I do feel powerful. For the first time in my entire life, I'm not the family doormat. I'm not the kid who worked 2 jobs while they handed him everything. I'm not the daughter they tried to bill for existing. And if that makes me a bad person, then fine. I'm a bad person who pays her own rent. What I actually said was he needed to leave before I called the cops. He stood up and got right in my face. Close enough that I could smell cigarettes on his breath even though he quit smoking 2 years ago. He said I was dead to him. That if our parents died tomorrow he wouldn't tell me. That I burned every bridge and one day I'd regret choosing money over family. I told him I didn't choose money over family. They did. When they decided my bank account mattered more than our relationship. When they picked his comfort over my survival. When they served me lawsuit papers at Thanksgiving dinner in front of everyone. I said I just refused to light myself on fire to keep him warm, and if that made me the villain in his story then I could live with that. He spit on my shoes. Actually spit on them. Then he walked away and got in his car and left. I stood there for like 10 minutes just staring at the spit on my sneakers before I went inside. My grandmother called me that night. She was crying. She said my mom tried to kill herself on Friday. Took a whole bottle of sleeping pills and my dad found her passed out on the bathroom floor. She's okay physically, but she's in a psychiatric hold right now and the doctors said she had a complete breakdown. My grandmother said Mom kept saying she failed as a mother and everyone hated her and she couldn't live with the shame anymore. I didn't feel anything when she told me. I should have felt something, right? Scared or guilty or sad or anything. But I just felt numb. I asked my grandmother if she was calling to blame me too. She said no. She said none of this was my fault and my mother's mental health issues didn't start with me standing up for myself. She said Mom's had depression for years and refused to get help and this was bound to happen eventually. But then she asked if I would consider visiting Mom at the hospital. Just once. Just to let her see that I'm okay so maybe she can start healing. She said it might help Mom to know I don't hate her even if I can't have a relationship with her right now. I told my grandmother I'd think about it and hung up. I haven't thought about it. I don't want to think about it. My aunt texted me yesterday with a screenshot of a GoFundMe my brother started. The title is Help Me Recover from Financial Abuse and the description says our parents manipulated him into buying a house he couldn't afford and then his sister refused to help when the family needed her and now he's homeless and traumatized. It has $340 raised so far from 3 people I don't recognize. My aunt said she reported it but GoFundMe hasn't taken it down yet. I spent 2 hours last night reading through the comments on my original Facebook post about the lawsuit. There are over 800 comments now. Most people are supportive, but there's this whole thread of people saying I'm cruel for cutting off my family when they're clearly struggling with mental health and financial problems. Someone said I lack empathy and probably have narcissistic personality disorder. Someone else said I sound like I enjoyed watching my family suffer and that's psychopath behavior. Maybe they're right. Maybe there's something wrong with me that I can look at my brother losing his house and my mom in psychiatric hold and my dad demoted at work and just feel nothing. Shouldn't I feel bad? Shouldn't I want to fix this somehow? My new job starts Monday. I'm supposed to be excited about it. It's $15,000 more than my old job and actual room for advancement. But all I can think about is my mom on a bathroom floor and my brother spitting on my shoes and my dad's blood pressure spiking because of stress I caused. I don't know if I did the right thing anymore. I don't know if standing up for myself was worth my entire family falling apart. And I really don't know if I'm supposed to feel guilty about not feeling guilty, because that seems like the kind of thing a normal person would struggle with, but I'm just tired. I didn't visit my mom in the hospital. I blocked my grandmother's number instead because she kept calling asking me to reconsider and I couldn't handle it anymore. My new job has been good. Really good, actually. My boss is reasonable and my co-workers are normal people who don't expect me to fund their lives. I've been working there for 2 weeks now and it feels like I can finally breathe without waiting for someone to demand something from me. I got my first paycheck yesterday and didn't have to immediately calculate how much I owed anyone. That's a new feeling. But Monday night I got an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line said, "You need to see this," and normally I'd delete the kind of thing, but something made me open it. It was from my brother's ex-fiancée. The one who called off their wedding and moved out. She sent me a PDF of text messages between her and my brother from 4 months ago. Before Thanksgiving. Before the lawsuit. Before any of this blew up. The messages were about me. My brother told her that our parents wanted me to help with the mortgage and he thought it was a great idea because I owed them for all the years they supported me. She asked if I'd agreed to it and he said not yet, but I would because I always did whatever they wanted eventually. He called me a pushover. Said I had no spine and they could guilt me into anything if they pushed hard enough. Then he said something that made me read the text 5 times to make sure I wasn't misunderstanding. He told her that once I started paying they could probably get me to cover other expenses too. Maybe the wedding costs. Maybe his car payment. He said she makes decent money now and she lives alone, so it's not like she needs it all. Might as well keep it in the family. His fiancée responded asking if he really thought that would work and he said, "I know my sister. She'll complain but she'll pay. She's too guilty about being the unfavored to say no." There were more messages but I couldn't read them. My hands were shaking too hard to hold my phone steady. His ex wrote in the email that she found these texts when she was packing up her stuff from his place. She said she thought about sending them to me earlier but wasn't sure if it was her place to get involved. But then she saw his GoFundMe calling it financial abuse and she decided I deserved to know what he really thought of me. She said she was sorry for not seeing who he really was sooner. She said I did the right thing by cutting them off. I forwarded the email to my uncle. The one who told me I should reach out to my dad because stress can kill people, and did I want that on my conscience? I didn't write anything in the message. Just forwarded it and waited. He called me an hour later. He talked to my grandmother and apparently my whole family is having some kind of reckoning about what actually happened. My uncle said he believed me before, but seeing those texts made him realize it was so much worse than he thought. He said my brother planned to exploit me from the beginning and our parents either knew or didn't care as long as I paid up. I asked him if he told my parents about the texts. He said he confronted my dad yesterday and my dad admitted they discussed getting me to pay for family expenses beyond just the mortgage. My dad told my uncle that I made good money and didn't have kids or a husband to support, so why shouldn't I help my brother who had more responsibilities? Like my financial stability was just spare change they could redistribute. My uncle sounded disgusted when he told me this. He said he was ashamed he ever suggested I should reconcile with them. He said I was right to leave and he hoped I never looked back. I should feel vindicated, right? I should feel like finally someone sees the truth and I'm not crazy for protecting myself. But instead I feel sick. Because those texts prove my brother never loved me. Not even a little bit. I was just a resource to him. A wallet with legs, like I said before, but worse because he knew exactly what he was doing and he thought it was funny that I was too pathetic to stand up for myself. My mom got released from the psychiatric hold on Wednesday. My grandmother told me before I blocked her number. Mom's staying with my aunt for now because my dad's been sleeping in the guest room and the tension in their house is apparently unbearable. My grandmother said Mom keeps asking if I've reached out and crying when the answer is no. Part of me wants to send her those texts. I want her to see what her golden child really is. I want her to know that she almost died over people who saw me as an ATM and thought that was perfectly reasonable. But what's the point? She'd probably just find a way to make it my fault anyway. My brother's GoFundMe is up to $890 now. Someone shared it in a local community group and people who don't know any of us are donating because they feel bad for him. The comments are full of strangers saying they're praying for him and hoping he recovers from his family's abuse. It makes me want to scream. I could post those texts publicly. I could show everyone what he really said about me and watch his whole victim narrative crumble. My cursor keeps hovering over the share button on Facebook. It would be so easy. One click and everyone would know the truth. But I keep thinking about my mom on that bathroom floor. About my dad's blood pressure and the demotion at work. About my brother sleeping on someone's couch because he lost everything. If I post those texts, it will destroy whatever's left of them. My parents will know their son is exactly as selfish as everyone already thinks, and it might actually kill one of them this time. My therapist, Yeah, I started seeing a therapist because apparently this is the kind of thing that requires professional help, says I need to decide what kind of person I want to be moving forward. She says revenge might feel good in the moment but it won't heal anything and I need to focus on building my own life instead of tearing down theirs. But they tried to tear down mine first. They served me lawsuit papers at Thanksgiving. They called me selfish and ungrateful and a bitch in front of my entire family. My brother spit on my shoes and told me I was dead to him. Why do I have to be the bigger person when they never were? I have those texts saved in 3 different places now. Every time I look at them I get angrier. Every time someone donates to his GoFundMe I want to burn it all down and let them face the consequences of who they really are. But I haven't posted them yet. I don't know why. I posted the texts. Not on Facebook where my family could see them. I posted them on Reddit with full context about everything that happened. The original post about the lawsuit. The updates about my brother losing his house and my mom's suicide attempt. And then screenshots of every single text message his ex sent me showing exactly what he said about me. What he planned to do. How he saw me as nothing but a bank account they could drain whenever they wanted. It got 40,000 upvotes in 6 hours. Someone cross-posted it to 4 different subreddits. People were tagging news outlets in the comments saying this needed to be reported on. Someone found my brother's GoFundMe and reported it with links to my post as evidence of fraud. GoFundMe took it down within 12 hours and refunded everyone who donated. My brother called me from yet another number I didn't have blocked. He was screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He said I was a psychopath. That I destroyed what was left of his life because I couldn't let anything go. That the friend whose couch he'd been sleeping on kicked him out after reading the post because he didn't want to be associated with someone like that. My brother said he had nowhere to go and it was my fault and he hoped I was happy. I told him I was happy. That for the first time in years I felt like I could breathe without someone's hand around my throat demanding money. I told him every single thing that happened to him was a consequence of his own choices and I was done feeling guilty about refusing to be his personal ATM. Then I hung up and blocked that number too. My dad showed up at my job 3 days later. I don't know how he found out where I work but he walked right into the office and asked the receptionist for me by name. My boss came to get me and asked if I knew the man in the lobby who was demanding to see me. I looked through the glass and saw my dad standing there in a wrinkled suit looking 10 years older than the last time I saw him. I told my boss it was my father and I didn't want to speak to him. My boss, who's this tiny woman in her 50s, walked out to the lobby and told my dad he needed to leave or she'd call security. My dad said he just needed 5 minutes to talk to his daughter. My boss said his daughter was at work and didn't want to speak to him and he needed to leave now. He started crying right there in the office lobby. Talking about how his family was destroyed and his son was living in his car and his wife wouldn't stop taking pills to numb the pain and all because I couldn't forgive one mistake. He said they were wrong to sue me but they were desperate and people do desperate things when they're scared. He said I used to be such a sweet girl and he didn't know what happened to me. My boss told him what happened to me was I grew a spine. Then she called security and they escorted him out. She took me into her office afterward and asked if I was okay. I said I was fine but I started crying anyway and couldn't stop. She let me leave early and told me to take the next day off if I needed it. I didn't take the day off. I came in and worked and tried to pretend my dad hadn't shown up begging me to fix the mess he created. But my coworkers knew something happened because apparently my dad caused a scene on his way out and security had to threaten to call the cops before he'd leave the building. My aunt, the one who'd been supportive, called me that weekend. She said my parents are separating. My dad moved out last Tuesday and is staying in a motel because nobody in the family will let him stay with them. My mom's still with my aunt but she's barely functional. Just takes her medication and sleeps most of the day. My brother's been living in his car for a week and a half now. He's trying to get assistance but apparently having a recent foreclosure makes it nearly impossible to get approved for anything. My aunt said she wasn't calling to make me feel guilty. She said she was calling because I deserved to know what happened and she thought I should hear it from someone who wasn't trying to manipulate me. She said my parents made their choices and my brother made his and none of what they're going through now is my fault. She said she was proud of me for standing up for myself even when it cost me everything. But it didn't cost me everything. That's what I keep trying to explain to people who message me saying I went too far. It didn't cost me anything. I lost a family that never actually loved me. I lost parents who saw me as a resource instead of a daughter. I lost a brother who thought I was too pathetic to stand up for myself and planned to exploit that weakness for as long as he could. What I gained is a job I actually like. Coworkers who respect me. A boss who stood up for me without me even asking. An apartment that's mine where nobody can demand I pay for their mistakes. A life where I get to keep the money I earn instead of handing it over to people who think they're entitled to it because we share DNA. My therapist says I need to process the grief of losing my family even if they were toxic. She says it's normal to mourn what I wanted them to be even while acknowledging what they actually were. But I don't feel grief. I feel relief. Every day I wake up and nobody's calling me selfish. Nobody's telling me I owe them something. Nobody's trying to guilt me into sacrificing my future for their comfort. The Reddit post is still up. People comment on it every day telling me I did the right thing. sharing their own stories about families who treated them like piggy banks, thanking me for showing them it's okay to walk away from people who only love you for what you can give them. Someone started a whole thread analyzing the texts my brother sent and breaking down all the manipulation tactics he tried to use. It's weirdly validating to see strangers understand exactly what I lived through. My brother's ex-fiancée messaged me last week. She said she's been following everything and wanted me to know she's sorry she didn't see who he really was sooner. She said if she'd known what kind of family she was marrying into, she would have ended it years ago. She thanked me for sending her those texts because they made her realize she dodged a bullet. She's apparently dating someone new now and she seems happy. I'm happy too. Or at least I'm getting there. I'm sleeping better now that I'm not constantly anxious about the next demand or guilt trip. I'm saving money for the first time in my life. I joined a gym near my apartment and started going to a book club at the library, and I'm making actual friends who don't know anything about my family drama. People who just like me for me instead of what I can do for them. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd just paid the $1,200 a month like they wanted. If I'd sucked it up and sacrificed my financial stability to keep the peace. My brother would still have his house. My parents would still be together. My mom wouldn't be medicated and barely functional. My dad wouldn't be living in a motel. My family would still be intact even if I was drowning. But then I remember those texts. She's too guilty about being the unfavorable to say no. Might as well keep it in the family. She'll complain but she'll pay. That's what my brother really thought of me. That's who they all were underneath the family dinners and the guilt trips and the "we're just asking you to help out." They didn't want me to help. They wanted me to disappear into nothing but a source of income. They wanted me small and grateful and too scared to say no. And I refuse to be that person anymore, even if it means losing everyone. My grandmother died 2 weeks ago. Heart attack. She was the only one who ever really understood why I left. The only one who never tried to make me feel guilty about protecting myself. My aunt called to tell me about the funeral and asked if I was coming. I said no. She understood. I found out later that my brother showed up drunk and caused a scene. Yelling about how I killed our grandmother with stress. How I tore the family apart and didn't even have the decency to show up to her funeral. My uncle had him removed. Nobody's heard from him since. I'm not going back. Not for funerals or weddings or holidays or emergencies. Not for guilt trips or apologies or promises that things will be different. I built a new life out of the ashes of the old one, and I'm not letting them burn this one down too. People keep asking if I regret posting those texts. If I think I went too far by publicly exposing what my brother really thought of me. The answer is no. I don't regret it at all. They tried to destroy me quietly with lawsuits and manipulation and family pressure. I just made sure everyone could see exactly who they were. That's not revenge. That's just truth. I'm done being sorry for surviving them.